Hey, what is up you guys? I've had so many questions about my tongue piercings and I'm super excited to answer some of them for you guys today. So I actually initially had wanted to get the single tongue piercing. I have the Venom piercing, so that's 2. I originally went in to get a single tongue piercing and I couldn't because there's a vein that runs down the middle of my tongue. So everybody has the same vein, but depending on your anatomy, and it's just genetics and just like the way your body is, either that vein will run down the 2 sides or down the middle or some combination like that. Unfortunately, mine was right down the middle, which meant I would bleed out and die if I tried to get a normal tongue ring. So I was like, well shit, and I left. From there I was like, fuck, well I still really want to get a tongue piercing, you know? So I decided that I did want to get the Venom rings. And I'd read a little bit about them, but the reason that I didn't initially want them as much as a normal one was because I used to have the web of my tongue pierced. I'll insert a picture here. It's not just the web part underneath your tongue, but I used to have a barbell through. So I went in the second time to get my Venom piercings done, and I was super dumb about it, okay? Definitely do your research about the place that you are going to get your piercings done. This is something that should be sanitary. They should have bioclaves and you should know the type of metals that they're using. I knew about it, but I was 17 years old and I wanted to get my Venoms pierced, and instead of waiting to go to the reputable parlor that would not pierce me until I was of legal age, I was like, well, I'll go to the sketchy one then because I want them now. And that was like the dumbest mistake I could have made. So the sketchier parlor that I went to decided to pierce me with Bioplast, which if you guys don't know, I actually recommend it for smileys and for web piercings because they're light, made out of like plastic, right? You don't want to do an initial piercing with it because it can't be sterilized the same way. Because it's made out of plastic, it's porous, right? So bacteria can get in. But anyway, they pierced me with Bioplast and I went on my way. Shortly after, I actually went to Edmonton. I woke up one morning and my tongue had swollen so much that the ball had actually implanted into my tongue. And that super sucked. For me it wasn't terrible, I noticed it right away, I immediately pressed it out. But that is why you don't want to go to a sketchy parlor, you want to go to someone who knows what they're doing. And the reason for that being that Bioplast is not 100% safe in a brand new piercing. So I went in to get my tongue pierced and the lady was very nice. It wasn't bad at all. I wasn't super worried. I do have a lot of piercings so I don't tend to get nervous. I went in with my boyfriend and I sat on this sweet ass chair and filled out all the paperwork and stuff. She asked me to stick out my tongue and she dried it off with a paper towel. They do that to make sure that they can write on it and make the marks with a non-toxic marker. So she did that and put some marks and she showed me about where the tongue piercing would line up because of the veins underneath my tongue. I believe she did the left one first. The first one hurt a little bit less, but that's because the blood of course rushes to the area when you're getting pierced. The second one happened, it hurt a little bit more, but overall it wasn't bad, a strong pinch, but I have a super high pain tolerance, so keep that in mind if you're using that to judge for your own. So after that, my dumb ass decided like, yo, like I should probably go get some Chinese food right now. So off we went to get some Chinese food. And I learned very quickly that you cannot eat fried rice right after getting your tongue pierced, especially when you have 2 of them. So I tried to choke back a couple tablespoons of rice and I was on soup for the next 3 days. I want to say it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like a totally liquid diet. If I wanted to eat something bad enough, I would. Obviously stay away from hard things. I ate like cooked broccoli, it was very soft and easy to eat, oatmeal, I think I did cereal. Basically when you have this tongue piercing, they recommend that you don't want to eat anything that is intense in flavors. Nothing spicy, salty, sour, anything that'll make you salivate because that's going to cause your tongue to swell more. Also super important is to not be drinking alcohol, but I'll get into that later. That was my experience going to get it pierced, and directly afterward I did notice for the next couple of days the swelling continued to go up. The discomfort came mainly because the bars were pressing on my tongue because my tongue was so swollen, but that was obviously because the bars were a little bit too short. So without that, I imagine it wouldn't have been as painful of a healing process. So after you get Venom piercings, you're going to need to rinse your mouth out every time you eat or put anything that is not water into your mouth. So that means if you're smoking a cigarette, you're going to need to rinse out your mouth. If you're going to have a bomb joke, you're going to need to go rinse out your mouth afterwards. That was totally fine. They gave me some H2 Ocean. It's like a saline spray. I'll leave a link in the description for H2 Ocean off of Amazon as well. But if you don't have any of that handy or you can't order any, another thing that you can do is take a non-alcohol mouthwash. So you got to make sure there's no alcohol in it because that will cause more irritation. But there's a non-alcohol Listerine, I'll put a picture right here. And if you take that and you want to dilute it about half and half, and that will be gentle enough for you to wash out your mouth without aggravating your brand new piercings. I'm going to get on to what they don't tell you about Venom piercings. For one, I know for a fact there's barely any Venom piercing videos out there because I looked for them too before I got mine done. And 2, I feel like there's so many things that I didn't know would happen and I totally would love if somebody made a video explaining them all to me. One thing, some of the foods you eat after you have venom piercings will be kind of weird. For example, like chips. The reason for that is you now have bars of metal in the middle of your tongue, right? So you're biting into a chip. It's not like covering the same parts of your tongue. If you eat food only on the left side of your mouth, it gives a different sensation than eating it on the right side of your mouth, okay? So think now you kind of can't taste. It's not that you can't taste as much, but it's just food can't reach the center of your tongue, and that's a really weird thing to adjust to. I'm totally used to it now, and I don't find eating weird. I forget what it was like to eat without my venoms. I don't take them out to eat or anything. I never have, and I never will, but just be aware of that for sure. Gum isn't a thing, and to this day I forget about this. But my friend the other day came, offered me a piece of gum, and I pop it into my mouth, and immediately it's like tangled mess in these piercings. You cannot chew gum if you have these piercings. If you're the type that chews gum a lot, maybe like curb it. I bet you probably could chew gum if you were like super persistent and really into it, but it's definitely like a huge pain in the ass that isn't a pain in the ass before you have piercings, if that makes any sense at all. Certain things will make your piercings hit against the back of your mouth. Now I'm usually pretty careful not to play with them. I'm Spanish, so I notice some Spanish words you roll your tongue, and that will actually cause it to clank against the back of my teeth. That bothers me though. And some frequently asked questions that I have had about my venom piercings. One, did it hurt? I have a very high pain tolerance, but I would say it was about like a 4 out of 10. My boyfriend, one thing he did say is that he came with me to get it done, and he could actually hear it going through my tongue. So be aware that it is a very thick thing that you're piercing, especially for your venoms. You are going through a muscle, right? So that is going to be a little bit more painful and cause a little bit more of a healing time. So if you have a low pain tolerance, it might not be the piercing for you. That being said, if you want it, then fucking go for it. And another question I get a ton is, does it feel like there's a lot of metal in your mouth? My answer to that is no. Mind you, I did have piercings before, but as with any piercings, you totally get used to them, whether they're small or lots of people have gauged tongue rings. They're totally used to that by the time that they've had it for a few months. So that's cool, you do get used to it, but yeah, it totally can feel like a lot of metal at the beginning. And the last question that I do get a whole ton is it difficult, or did you notice any difference with your speech? And the answer to that is no. I can say the first week, I definitely recommend taking off of work if you are in a position where you are speaking to people. I made the mistake of not taking it off of work, and I was waitressing at the time. I believe I had 2 days to recover before I had to go back to work, and working as a waitress at an Italian restaurant, I'm wandering around going spaghetti for like 2 weeks. It was terrible. But, of course, speech has totally returned to normal, and I absolutely adore my piercings. Alright guys, thanks for listening to me ramble on, and make sure you check me out all of my social media below. Have a good one, you guys.